today, Dr. Ross Marcagiani, with another great talk at Turnpaugh Health and Wellness Center in today's Word of the Week. Today's Word of the Week is going to be micronutrients. We're going to talk about what are micronutrients, how do they help us, what happens when we're low in micronutrients, how to test for them, and then how we can supplement with our micronutrients. Let's dive in. So first, what are micronutrients? Micronutrients are essential elements such as vitamins, made up of vitamins and minerals, which are vital to healthy development, disease prevention, and well-being. This was taken directly from the CDC, as you can see below on the bottom of this page here, to the link to the CDC. So the CDC is recognizing how crucial and important micronutrients are. And I wanted to highlight and underscore essential, meaning our body does not make these micronutrients. We need to get them from our environment, whether it's from the ground, which we'll talk about in just a moment, or whether we are supplementing with them. So what are micronutrients? So they're, again, like we said, vitamins and then minerals, made up and divided into macro minerals and micro minerals and various vitamins. Now, some might heard of the word of macronutrients. Now, that's mainly made of your protein, carbohydrate, and fat. Next, when we look at your micronutrients, you can see we have our various B vitamins here. We have our various macro minerals, which mean we need to consume, it is thought that we need to consume at least greater than 100 milligrams daily to get adequate amount. And then our micro minerals, it's thought that we need to consume less than 100 milligrams to get the adequate amount here. But you can see the various breakdowns between the vitamins, macro minerals, and micro minerals. How do they help us? They help us in various ways here. They help with our cognition and our motor development. They help produce energy. They help our immune system and our immune function. They help reduce inflammation and free radicals. For those who tune into my videos, they know free radicals, what they are and how they create inflammation. They promote bone health and tissue health. So connective tissue, heart tissue, gut tissue, respiratory tissue. So it's really helpful in development and maintaining our tissue. It helps to slow down cellular aging. I love that. That's a really great benefit. And it helps to control insulin levels with certain micronutrients. Now, if we are deficient in our micronutrients, now it's rare in developed countries that we have micronutrient deficiencies, typically in third world or developing countries, but typically what are most commonly are like vitamin C, which is scurvy, vitamin D with children, which is known as rickets, or in adults, osteomalacia. You can have deficiencies in iron, creating iron deficiency anemia. You can have deficiencies in B12 and folate, which can create neural tube defects when children are born, and also create something called megaloblastic anemia. You can have B1 thymine deficiency called beriberi, which causes muscle wasting. You could have niacin deficiency, B3, which is pellagra, which creates memory issues. So there are various diseases that can develop, but it's typically rare in developed countries. But that's not to say that we shouldn't pay close attention to them. And here's the great part. We can test for these micronutrients. So we use a specific test that looks at intracellular and extracellular micronutrients. So meaning it actually looks at the intracellular portion, which is actually the micronutrients that are getting into the cell and being absorbed in the cell, but we also get to look at the micronutrients that are floating in our bloodstream that are waiting to be absorbed. So we can see what we need to increase our extracellular amount of micronutrients, and to see if we need to increase our intracellular amount because our red blood cells or our white blood cells aren't absorbing them as effectively. And you can see here, there's a whole list here that I compiled here that the micronutrient testing looks at in regards to micronutrients. But that's the big thing I want to harp on, which if you're going online and just getting a random micronutrient testing, they are typically only looking at one of these. They're not looking at intracellular and extracellular absorption rate. So really important to note that. Now, how do we supplement? So priority number one, I want us to try to use our nutrition for everything. Nutrition should be our medicine. Unfortunately, though, we're in a time where our soil is starting to become more and more depleted. You can go on the internet, there's lots of debates about this, that it's a farce and that we're fine. I can remember Dr. Turnpaugh going to a big high event seminar in New York, and he came back with a stat that someone mentioned and said in 100 years, our soil is going to be completely devoid of nutrients, that we won't even be able to farm. So that's kind of scary to think about. But there is soil degradation. We have soil mining, which is depleting our nutrients. So it's not as easy to be able to get these nutrients as it once was. So some things that I recommend: a good multivitamin. These are things I just want to specify. These are things that I do specifically for myself. So make sure I have a good multivitamin. I want to make sure that I have a good B complex. So I want to look at that B complex, making sure I'm not getting cyanocobalamin. That's a cyanide attached to your B12. Typically, with all your B vitamins, or specifically folate in B12, you want to find a methylated form. That's just an easier absorbable form. So your folate, you want a methylfolate, and with your B12, you want a methyl B12. There are other forms of B12s that we would use for various reasons, but we won't dive into that right now. Typically, I use at least 5,000 IUs. For myself, I use 10,000 IUs daily of vitamin D for immune health and for bone health. Every cell in the body uses vitamin D. It's crucial. About 25,000 IUs, again, a day for myself for vitamin A. I always incorporate a trace mineral, which would get, boron, it can get selenium, it can get those various micro minerals in there in adequate amounts. Making sure we're getting a magnesium. I do anywhere between 300 up towards 600, maybe even a gram, depending on how hard I'm working out that week, of magnesium. Typically in the form of magnesium malate. There's various forms: magnesium citrate, malate, glycinate. There's other forms even beyond that. At least 15 milligrams of zinc a day for myself, again, for immune function. Calcium around 300 milligrams, bone health. And I know it wasn't really mentioned here, but fish oil is so crucial for reducing inflammation and brain health. At least 1 to 2 grams a day I do of myself for fish oil. So this is just a regimen that I do on the daily. Some other aspects, when you want to make sure, if you're looking at calcium, calcium citrate is typically the best form. Calcium carbonate is good as well. You want to look at if you're doing pyridoxine, or pyridoxine using P5P, which is pyridoxine 5-phosphate. It's more absorbable. Please do not do cyanocobalamin. Please do not use folic acid. Use the methylated forms if they're much more easily absorbed. I hope this helps you. If you know anyone, or if you want to be tested for your micronutrients, please don't hesitate to reach out and share this video. I appreciate your time and have a great day.